Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun. He gets a bit more to do, but I'm not gonna go say any more beyond that. Just say he gets a bit more to do than just appearing. But yeah, there'll be expect more hijinks from the barman. As I mentioned, I can just say that there'll be hijinks, and he'll be a bit of a laugh and quite fun. So yeah, and again, more involvement. But I can't really say much without spoiling the film, especially the last act. Extremely fun, but also quite tedious in some cases when we don't get the right shots or the right angles, or people laugh on set, or behind the scenes. It's filmmaking in general. You get that. It's a lot of hard work into it, including homemade films, as you can tell. But yeah, it's a lot of fun and loads of enjoyment, and we get quite a lot of laughs. Um, well, possibly a scene featuring Judi Dench and Dominic Green that we did film, and I can't go into details about it, but it was incredibly funny. In the behind the scenes short film Ollie did, we were filming on the well, yeah, you'll know when this where we shot it, I should say. I can't really go into too much details, but some of the shots of the behind the scenes are featured in that video, so we filmed it around at that time. It's a very funny scene, and we couldn't keep a straight face, especially Ollie here. We couldn't keep a straight face when we were filming the last little bit, because it's so funny. I think the audience is going to love it. Other great scenes. The first scene with Connery and Brosnan is also really funny. Um, that's going to be quite fun. I think apparently I even had a slight suggestion that got included in the film. Not going to say what, but that's apparently I had a little suggestion. It's a nice little reference to Doctor No in a way, with the tarantula scene of that film. Um, yeah, there's just been some great moments for quite a lot. Those two were just some very funny moments that we did, and some good filming days. I don't think I read the first script, not even when Ollie had his showcase of his stuff at his H&D end of end of year, I suppose, end of time. I guess I would say end of time stuff. Yeah, I didn't read the whole thing. I think I just had a look at it. The second film I did read the script of when I was on set, because I wasn't there for the first one. We met afterwards. But second film, I had met him by that point. By the time they started, and I read the script when on set, and it was a great script. I especially loved the bits where Judi Dench popped up and Connery went. That was my favourite bit in the script. Played a bit differently to how I thought it was on screen, but it was still a fantastic moment in the script. But yeah, great script. Might have actually have read the first one at the end of time showcase thing, but I can't quite remember that much. I definitely know that the third one is just comparing it to the final film. Let's do that because that's easier. The third one's script is outstanding. He's surpassed himself, and that's just the final script. Of course, we're adding other stuff in and improv and all that, but the script itself is outstanding. On its own, it probably would be the best film, without even needing to be filmed. Of course, we've got to film it, because otherwise it won't be a film. But it's outstanding. I loved it. I did reviews of the two films, and at the end of the second film, I just absolute flat out gave a lot. Basically, gave it a tongue bath. Tongue bath. How good it was. That's a term of pretty much giving it a lot of praise. But yeah, it's so good. it would be a 10 out of 10 straight away just from script alone. And I can tell we've got something really special coming up when it gets done. Oh yeah, he's a great director. He certainly knows what he's doing. He certainly knows what he wants. He has this vision, but he's also okay with other people bringing in suggestions or ideas, providing it doesn't go too far. And controlling, of course, nobody wants that. Who does? But yes, he certainly knows what he wants and what he's doing, and he's certainly accomplishing that extremely well. I think he's actually slightly better than me, if we're let into a little secret. I'm actually considering a professional amateur, because they actually look professional, but they're homemade as well, so he's on the road to becoming an actual professional in the future, fingers crossed. But yeah, he does a great job, and it's all handled brilliantly. And he puts in so much work into these ones, and they pay off, for the most parts. Yes. Of course, it would also be great to see expanded stuff beyond this trilogy, but as a story, then yeah, a 3-part story works really great. Though the first one could have been a little bit longer, but I know that was just a 20-minute short film for Ollie's college thing, but if given the time to maybe remake it, which is probably something that won't happen, but theoretically you could make it a little bit longer and tidy up a little bit. But as a 3-part story, it works pretty amazingly, and has a lot of fun. And I think the third one is going to tie up a lot of the loose ends. That's a key of a good third film, is to tie up all the story arcs. At the same time, I also think a key to having a good first film is not to make it just make it as one film, and then if it goes well, then make the next 2, and then tying the story arcs with those. And that's where this franchise comes in, because that's exactly what happened. And it's not only is it working, but it's getting better. And so, as I mentioned, from a script point of view, film 3 is the best. We'll see in the execution wise, but certainly script wise, film 3 is the best. So, and from a story point of view, it's marvellous. Absolutely works. Well, in terms of script-wise, I think the story is more solid. It tries to wrap everything up, as I mentioned, and bring the trilogy to a fantastic end. It's also more funny, but also more dramatic, which should go hand in hand well. In an execution-wise, hopefully, with a slight improved filming and editing style, we could have something very special. The last film was handled brilliantly, but there were a few editing points that personally I would have noted change. But cinematography-wise, it was for the most part it was fantastic. And the same could be said here. A little bit of shaky cam is okay, but personally I'm not the biggest fan of shaky cam. But I'm sure a little bit would work. Works. But Ollie's film, he knows what he's doing. But yeah, I think this film will look better than the other 2, and I think it will stand out just as well. Well, there's a lot of references in there, and there's a lot of inspiration from those films that sort of come into comedic moments, such as in the first film with the Dalton Connery scene, basically combining a scene from A View to a Kill and a scene from The Living Daylights, and it merges into one scene, and it's fantastic. But that's on a story basis. As on an influence basis, I'm not really sure about as much of an influence besides the fact that it's Bond-esque, mostly based from the films, and you've got the characters, but certainly there is a love of James Bond and the world of James Bond and the characters of the series thrown into there, and it's going to be it's got lots of great characters influenced by the films or inspired side of things. I mean, they're pretty different for the most part, especially Sean Connery. But they still have their inspirations from those installments from the films, and I think they're nice inspiration and some ideas taken from them. But for the most part, they're pretty much their own characters, to be honest, especially each of the Bonds. So yeah, so there's inspiration, but they're actually a bit more original than you might think. Yes, because the first one kind of works as its own story, but when you decide to expand that, and when you decide to reveal a bit more of that, then yeah, 3 parts works just as well, unless you were going to wrap up the second film pretty quickly. But that one ends on a cliffhanger, and yeah, I think it works better as 3 films, because I think if they tried to tie it up with if they just made a second film and they tried to tie everything up, it would be a bit too much for that one. Whilst the third one, I think it gives itself enough time to not only tell its own story as well as continuing from the previous 2 films, but also tying in overall. So the third film has a lot to do, but going back to the script, it does it so beautifully. So it's carrying on from the second film and the first film, of course. At the same time, it's sort of having its own story, and then we get to the wrap up of the entire thing, and then we come to the end, and it's gonna be a great finale. I can assure you, it's gonna be a great film. Yeah, seeing a third 50 Slices Bond film alongside the other 3, it's lots. Well, hopefully seeing how everybody enjoys it all being wrapped up. All the fun we've had, all the effort we put into a really solid final project, and the joy of watching something we've tried to make and seeing it all come together, and basically just watching a great hour and a half, give or take, film, and having a lot of fun with it and having some great entertainment. Maybe. Probably not a Bond family one, because that idea's been taken. Though inspiration could be for other projects could be from that. But as for Bond, maybe his own, maybe just a James Bond fan film or something in the future, maybe, or tie-ins with other stuff. So perhaps.